Shoulder pain with push-ups is a common complaint, and there are a variety of different reasons of why this can occur. Typically, the pain is located on the front side of the shoulder, so it could be due to irritation of either the biceps tendon or the supraspinatus tendon. In this video, we'll go over 2 different strategies to help decrease the shoulder pain with push-ups. The first focuses on load management, and then the second is to increase the tolerance to compressive loads. Load management here means decreasing the amount of load that we're placing on the shoulder while still trying to do a push-up movement. And the way that we would do this is with an inclined push-up. It allows us to modify how much load we're placing on the shoulder to find what's tolerated and then gradually build up from there. The least loaded modification is a wall push-up, and ideally when we're performing these, we want to have the same form that we would have when we're on the ground. So if our elbows are a little bit more flared out or tucked to our sides, we want to replicate that when we're doing the wall push-up, so that way as we progress back down to the ground, that we're not changing the technique, we're just gradually increasing the load that we're placing on that shoulder. Then the goal is to gradually decrease the amount of incline that we're using until we're back down to the ground. So if we started with that wall push-up first, then we could progress to something like a countertop or a desk. And then once we're able to do that, then we could progress down to a chair or a couch until we're finally back down to the ground. And that's how we would use something like load management to gradually increase the loads on the shoulder with push-ups. Building up tissue tolerance to compression is another option for shoulder pain with push-ups. When we look at the biceps and the supraspinatus tendons, they sit on the front of the shoulder. So as that shoulder goes back into extension, it can lead to compression. And so there's a couple of different exercises that we can use to help build up that tolerance. W's can be a useful exercise to start loading the shoulder into a little bit of compression. And the nice thing is that they're very similar to how most people perform push-ups. So when we look at a push-up, typically people have about 45-degree angle here when they do their push-ups, and when we do the W, it's going to be in a very similar position. So you need an exercise band or a cable machine. And for this exercise, what we'll do is the band's going to be anchored down just a little bit, and then from this position here, it's a pull to rotation, and then back. And so we want to perform these slow, typically over 6 to 8 seconds. So it's a 3 to 4 second contraction up, and then a 3 to 4 second contraction back down. This will get primarily the traps, the rhomboids, and the posterior rotator cuff, so the infraspinatus and the teres minor. So again, to perform, start here, pull to rotate, squeeze those shoulder blades back as far as you can go, and then back to that starting position. If you're typically someone who performs the push-up with those elbows flared out a little bit more, we can modify the W's so that we're going to be in a similar position that we would with the push-up. And to do this, we're going to do a high pull to external rotation. And so what we're going to do is we're going to raise the anchor point so it's a little bit higher up. And then from this position here, our elbows are going to be right about at shoulder height. We're going to row and then externally rotate again, and then back to that starting position. Everything stays the same, so we want to perform these nice and slow over 6 to 8 seconds with the movements here. If that's a little bit irritating, and this actually applies to the W's as well, if we don't feel like we can get fully into extension of that shoulder, then we can limit the range of motion. So initially we might start with those elbows a little bit in front of the torso, and then rotate from there. And then the progression is to slowly extend further and further back into external rotation, getting back into that compressive load. Another exercise that we can use to help build up the tolerance to compressive loads for the shoulder is a bowler's curl. Again, we'll need an exercise band or a cable machine. Technically, this exercise can be done with a dumbbell, but the problem is the line of drive isn't quite the same because we actually need the anchor point behind us, where with a dumbbell, it's just going to be gravity, which is going to be straight down. And so to perform this exercise, we want to start with the elbow either right at our side or just a little bit in front. And then from this position, we're just going to bring that shoulder into flexion. A little bit of elbow bend is okay. And then back down to our side. Again, trying to keep the elbow either right at our side or right in front, depending on how sensitive that shoulder is to those compressive loads. And so we'll start doing this exercise just like this. To progress this exercise to help build in more compressive loads, we'll actually take a step forward, which will increase the resistance on either the cable or the exercise band. And then we can start to bring that elbow back a little bit further, which increases those compressive loads because we're bringing the shoulder into extension. So everything stays the same here. We'll bring that shoulder into flexion, and then back, bringing that elbow just a little bit back behind our body, so loading it into extension, and then back up. Again, if we want to increase the loads a little bit more, just take another step forward. And same thing, bring that elbow up, and then elbow past the body again, loading into a little bit more extension. Hopefully this video on shoulder pain with push-ups was helpful. As I wait for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, I'm gonna do a couple push-ups myself.